Are you looking forward to your Thanksgiving feast? Do you want to know the perfect whiskey to pair with your meal? Well, if you want to know the 10 best whiskeys to drink on Thanksgiving, then stick around. All right, well, as you can see, we have the very special guest, the lovely, pretty girl, my wife, Lindsay. I had to beg her to come on the show. So hopefully you guys just get down in those comments and tell her how much you love seeing her on the show. But before we get too far, who do we need to thank, pretty girl?
Our patrons.
The Patreons.
Yes.
Patrons.
Patrons.
They're patrons.
Patrons of Patreon.
That's what you guys are. So basically, this podcast is not free. It costs money to produce. And you all make it possible two ways. One, you buy a lot of merch from our website, and we are very appreciative of that. This is going to come out in time for them to know. We have Black Friday sales coming. So keep an eye out for that. But we also have to thank our monthly patron supporters. We do a lot of extra stuff for the patrons too, so it's not just about supporting the channel, because we do have some member benefits, some of which are pretty cool whiskey experiences that you really can't get anywhere else, like when we do distillery takeovers. Yeah, that's a ton of fun, and sometimes we get the distillery to cater in food and all that stuff, but we do virtual bottle shares every month and discounts on merch. We do tons of giveaways inside Patreon where I'm giving away media samples and bottles that you can't get access to. So, just stuff like that. But we really appreciate everyone's support and just wanted to say thank you to all of you guys. Now, let's talk about the subject at hand, which is what whiskeys do we recommend that people drink on Thanksgiving with their meal. So the problem with thinking about giving whiskey recommendations is that the meal itself kind of has a part one and a part two.
Sure.
Right? And so, can you tell me why everyone eats Thanksgiving meal at a time that's different from normal meal times?
No, it makes me crazy.
Makes me crazy. Yeah. I don't eat at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, people.
But somehow it's always ready at 3.
Somehow it's ready at 3. I don't know if people need to get up earlier. I don't know if they need to start later and eat dinner at normal dinner time. I'm not sure.
And then our son, who eats enough for 5 grown men, gets super cranky because he's like, we didn't eat dinner. I'm like, well, we kind of did. The food was just there.
Yeah, you could eat more.
For hours after.
But you've got the meal part, and then usually there's a little intermission, and then you've got the dessert part. And we're going to make 5 recommendations for the meal and 5 recommendations for the dessert part. So what are we looking for in a whiskey to pair with the meal, and why?
Well, for the salty, savory flavors of Thanksgiving dinner, you want something that's a little sweet or fruity or floral to kind of balance that out.
Balance it out, yeah. So that's one of the, if you've ever gotten into drink food pairings, sometimes you're trying to pick a drink that has a flavor that is also found in the meal. And sometimes you kind of go the opposite direction and you pick contrasting flavors so that they can balance themselves out. And the best thing to do, I think, with the salty, savory flavors is to contrast. So the number one recommendation for Thanksgiving...
I mean, how could we not?
How could you not? Wild Turkey 101. Mainly just because of the name. But on the palate, there are some flavors that I think contrast well with some of the salty, savory flavors from the meal. What do you get on the Wild Turkey?
Little bit of dark cherry, some vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
It's great that it's a mid-level proof, so it's not too hot. It's not.
Right. Thanksgiving is a marathon, not a sprint. So
sure.
Some of the recommendations are higher proofs. You got to be careful with those if you're going to be drinking for an extended period of time. Yeah. But Wild Turkey's got a high enough proof that it stands up, but it's not going to totally blow you out like some of the super high cash drinks. So.
Well, and it's super affordable, so it's readily available. You could go grab it off the shelf. So I think it's a good pick.
And number 2 salty savory list would be Four Roses, and I'm specifically recommending the small batch, even though what is featured here is the limited edition, because I happen to be out of small batch right now. But small batch, actually all Four Roses products are really known for being fruity and floral, and that is just the perfect profile for, you know, salty savory meals. I love to drink Four Roses and eat salted buttered popcorn, and I love to pair it with beef jerky too. So those are my two favorite whiskey pairings. But yeah, they're also a little bit lower proof for a longer drinking time. But I think those flavor profiles would match up pretty well with your meal. What do we have for number 3?
Number 3 is the Bulleit small batch.
And why, pray tell, pretty girl, would we recommend Bulleit small batch for this list?
Well, I'm married to this whiskey guy, and he told me that Bulleit was previously owned by the same people as Four Roses, so they have a similar profile.
Yeah, they have. So both distilleries are unique in that they have 5 different yeast strains and 2 different mash bills, and so each yeast strain tends to produce a particular flavor profile. Some are more like earthy, some are more fruity and floral. But generally speaking, Bulleit small batch is easy to find. It's very inexpensive, and it has a fruitier floral profile similar to Four Roses. So we're recommending that for the same reasons. And I don't happen to have the small batch. I happen to have a cask strength single barrel on display, but I'm specifically recommending the small batch.
The cask strength is going to get you where you're going.
Get you where you're going.
Real fast.
All right. So for number 4, this one's kind of a generic category,
sure.
Which is Buffalo Trace. Bourbon was what I was thinking of because it is that lower 90 proof, but it's Buffalo Trace Mashbill 1, and they make a lot of different products with it. So I happen to be out of Buffalo Trace, and ironically, it is on allocation, even though it's like their base level product. And when it hits, everybody has it for a little bit, and then it disappears and it's gone. And I have not replaced my last bottle from when I finished it. So all I have is the extremely limited E.H. Taylor small batch. But that gives us the opportunity to talk about this mash bill. So the reason why we're recommending it is it's got a fruitier profile. And what I noticed with Mashbill 1, with like the Buffalo Trace product or Benchmark, both of those have more of a sweet grape flavor that tastes like the purple icy pops that we used to eat when we were a kid. And then when it gets a little bit older, like around the 6+ year range, we start to develop into a darker cherry flavor, and that's what I get out of like the E.H. Taylors or the Stag Juniors or whatnot. So anything from that Mashbill 1 I think is going to go well with your Thanksgiving meal. If you can find the allocated stuff like the Eagle Rares and things like that, that's great. But if all you can find is a Benchmark or a Buffalo Trace bourbon, you're going to be happy. And then our 5th and final recommendation for the main course would be what?
And this is super fun. Literally any MGP bourbon.
Any MGP bourbon. So
I mean, we said it was top 5, but it's like 5++ because
we're gonna give one main recommendation.
There's lots
for
of
each one, but yeah, there's lots.
Sure.
So if you don't know, MGP is now called Ross and Squibb. It's in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, and they make whiskey for about 20% of the bottles that you see on shelves at the liquor store. And you know, once you start to learn which brands buy from them, and you can always tell, you can read on the back label the state of distillation. It'll say in real small print, distilled in Indiana. It's always MGP. There are starting to be some other companies that are trying to sell whiskey to non-distilled producers out of Indiana, but nobody on anywhere near the scale of MGP. And so the reason why we're recommending it is because they have a higher rye content than most bourbons. So one of their mash bills is 21% rye, one is 36, which is pretty high. Similar situation for Four Roses as well. And so I think what that does is it gives it more of the baking spice notes and things that are familiar for a Thanksgiving meal, but it gives it a sweeter, floral type profile. And so generally MGP bourbons are, reminiscent of Thanksgiving flavors.
Yeah.
Which I think it complements the meal well. Now, if you're unfamiliar with all the different companies, I'll tell you a few. MGP's brand that they release their own whiskey from is called Remus. Mm-hmm. And but there are countless non-distiller producers that buy from them. Some of them are Smoke Wagon and Nulu. You've been a fan of Nulu. Barrel Craft Spirits, Penelope, which, by the way, MGP just bought the Penelope brand to increase how much of their own whiskey they can sell through brands that they own. Stellum, OKI, Smooth Ambler, Old Scout, and we would be derelict in our duties if we did not mention that it also includes the Prideful Goat. 6 year straight bourbon. Yeah. We have on the website that you built, there's a goat finder.
It's so cute.
It is very cute. So if you go to pridefulgoat.com and you click the goat finder, little goats pop up on a screen. It's very cute.
So you can find them.
So you can find where to purchase, and we have some online retailers too. All right. Well, let's get to the part that you specialize in. Right. Which is the dessert section.
I mean, who doesn't love just a dessert buffet for Thanksgiving, right?
Right.
You can't please everyone. There's somebody that wants pecan pie, and someone wants apple pie, and someone wants this thing. So
I want all of them. Yes. So I don't really eat sweets, but on Thanksgiving, the sweet gloves come off. Yeah. And I have a small sliver of every dessert that's present. Yeah. And this is like the lightning round for me, because I have my assortment of whiskeys that I think are going to go well, and then I have an assortment of the desserts, and I'm literally sipping each whiskey with each dessert to find the best combination, and then the one that I like the most, I go back to that and finish the night. So that is a wild man's way to do it. Yeah, I do it one way, and I drink the one that's my favorite. That's the top of our list. Yeah. So, have you ever drank orange juice after you brush your teeth? Yeah. Okay. So that's what happens when you pair a really sweet food with regular bourbon, because it's just a mismatch. They can't get in the ring together, because one of them's just going to knock the other one out immediately. And so when we're talking about whiskeys that we're going to use for dessert, we need something that's a little bit bolder than just a straight bourbon. And so everything that we're recommending has gone through some sort of finishing process, or has something added to it that's going to give it that extra oomph to be able to stand up. So what is our number one recommendation every single time you were on the podcast? Go Pretty Girl. I'll give you 3 guesses, and the first 2 don't count. They don't count. Angel's Envy Rye. Angel's Envy Rye. It's my favorite. Yes. Yeah. It's my go-to. And what do they do to it that makes it special, and what's it taste like? It's finished in rum casks, and it's got like a mapley, sometimes bananas Foster, like some baking spice. I actually have like a very special batch number that I stocked up on, because it was very banana-y. It's fun to taste the different batches, because there actually is a ton of batch variants. Sure. I was gonna save a sample and send it back to them and be like, can you do this again? Can you do this again? We at one point started a nationwide hunt to find all of the bottles. We found 3 bottles, and I was like, it's on mine. Yeah. So she does have her special one. I just love Angel's Envy Rye. Yeah, and it's a little bit pricey. It's like $80 to $90 MSRP, but it's kind of like drinking dessert. It's that sweet. And that tasty. Which is why I love it. Honestly, you don't even need dessert. You could just drink this. Your dirty mouth. And you could be happy. No one's happy not eating dessert. All right. So the next recommendation was mine. It is Midwinter Night's Dram. Good people over at High West produce this. It is finished in port cask barrels, I believe, and that is what gives it its sweeter characteristics. It has a lot of fig and cherry and, dried orange peel, like baking spice notes. And those tend to go very well with Thanksgiving desserts.
It is pretty hard to find.
That one is on allocation for sure, and they keep raising the price. When they first came out, I think they were like $120, and everybody was like, that's expensive. And then it got popular, and now I'm seeing them for like $179.99, $199.99, even at retailers that don't work up too much. So that one can be a bit pricey, but it's still a fun one.
Sure.
For the last, I don't know, probably 5 years, I've had some Midwinter Dram with my dessert on Thanksgiving every year. So
I'll have to try it.
I'm gonna let you do the next one because this is your new fave.
I love this bottle. I don't want it to go away. It is the Whistle Pig Piggyback Alfa Romeo. It's a limited edition. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be around. I kind of stocked up and cleared a shelf.
Yeah, we did. We did buy a few bottles,
and I mean it's affordable, right? Like we got it for under $50.
What is it? Because that is a weird name for a whiskey.
Okay, so this rye whiskey was selected by the Alfa Romeo. I have to say it really slow, otherwise they go blah blah blah. Alfa Romeo F1 Team Steak Drivers. Say that 3 times fast. It is 96.77 proof, which is a nod to I don't know how to pronounce this man's name. Maybe we should.
Valtteri. It's Valtteri, I think. Valtteri?
I'm not sure. His racing number is number 77.
Yeah.
The team was responsible for picking this whiskey, and what I love about it's got odd flavors for whiskey, and I really like whiskeys that are like that. So this was it steeped in tea?
I'm not sure what the finishing process was.
But it involved oolong tea. And it imparts the tea flavors, obviously, but a little of the lychee. And I even asked Alexa, I was like, is it lychee? Is it lychee? I don't know. I've never...
Alexa says it's pronounced differently depending on where you're from.
Yes.
So, but she said lychee was the proper pronunciation.
But it has really nice citrusy flavors that go well with the tea. So, I mean, it might not be great with I'm not like an orange and chocolate person, right? Mm-hmm. Some people are. So I would go with something a little more mellow because it's got such unique flavor.
Yeah, and I will say that this whiskey is so unique. The only thing I've ever had that has any of this flavor in it was the Redbreast 27. Yeah. The Redbreast 27 is super citrus. It's almost all ruby red grapefruit flavor for me. Somebody else said, no, that's what lychee tastes like. And I was like, well, I'm not as familiar with that flavor. And that's now $1,000 bottle. So if you want to get close for around $50,
so we'll be drinking this one.
This is it. The only other one that I've ever had was Amroot triple distilled, where they mimic the process in Ireland, and it also has that citrus flavor. So what is next on the list?
The Penelope Toasted Rye.
Yes. Now, unfortunately, what we have displayed here is the toasted bourbon, although both would work for the same reason. But we are recommending the rye because, just so you know, rye has all of the baking spice notes that you would normally get in Thanksgiving dessert. So you're going to be tasting that clove and nutmeg and cinnamon. It's just an allspice kind of thing that's going on in general. But the toasting process adds flavors that are very reminiscent to s'mores. So there's like a graham cracker flavor. There's a toasted marshmallow flavor from the caramelization of the wood sugars, and the extra heat and exposure to heat by the wood adds a flavor that kind of tastes like chocolate. And so that is going to be one that's going to go very well with almost everything that's on your dessert list. And then last but not least would be the Basil Hayden Dark Rye. Now, do you know why it's dark? It's not because they age it in a barrel.
You were telling me that there's a process where they put a little splashy poo of port into the whiskey.
Yeah. So I've seen some other YouTube channels do some experimenting where they compared barrel finished products by the same underlying spirit and just put a little bit of that in it. And
like this.
Yeah, just like, you can go buy a port barrel and you can put whiskey in it and you can let it sit for 3 to 6 months, and then it has a little bit of a port flavor. Or you can just take your bourbon and pour a little bit of port in it. And that's what they did with this dark rye.
I think it's officially called a splashy poo.
A splashy poo.
I'm going to make t-shirts.
Hashtag splashy poo.
Yeah.
And it just adds a lot of dark fruit notes, which will pair exceptionally well with dessert. So anyway, so that's our top 10. We've got 5 for you for the main course, 5 for dessert. What do you say we give some stuff away?
Let's do it. I like presents.
Yes, she does love presents. But not surprises all that much.
I don't like surprises.
She doesn't like surprises.
Because there's expectation, but when you give a gift, it's just love.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so what if we just gave 1 ounce away of everything on the table?
Ooh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, so, and we are going to run this giveaway and try to do it in time so that you get your 10 samples
by Thanksgiving.
For Thanksgiving.
That'd be fun.
So this is going to post on Friday morning. We're going to close this on Sunday night, maybe Monday. If you win, please respond quickly to our request for your address, because we got to get it out that day to make sure that you have your samples in time for Thanksgiving. So we already mentioned how you can support the channel. We hope that you found this entertaining. Obviously, you can check out Patreon. Did I found out that you can't search for us on Patreon because our content is marked as not appropriate for children.
Sure.
And so they threw us in the same category with everybody else that produces wildly inappropriate content, which we don't.
We don't even have feet in our stuff.
Right, yeah. We never even show feet in our videos. No. Anyways, but down in the video description, there's a link. Obviously, there's a link for our merch. And a lot of people don't know this, but I'm also a real estate agent.
No.
And so if you are in a situation where you need to buy or sell a house anywhere in the Dallas or Houston metro area, you can reach out to me. I give epic bottles for closing gifts. And so
Lindsay's about to handle all of your transaction paperwork
again.
Yeah. Don't
Lindsay's,
have enough to do. We're just going to take that on.
We're just going to take that
it's
on.
Gonna be great.
But yeah, that's pretty much it. And so we would love to thank you for coming and viewing our show, and also tell you a little bit about the philosophy of the channel. And that is that we want to use whiskey to bring people together and create community and connection. And that's something that is important to Lindsay and I, because we lost my younger brother to suicide in 2014. We realized that he had started to lose the connections from the world around him. And we saw how whiskey was bringing people together. And we thought, maybe we can use whiskey to bring people together. And that way they don't have to feel alone the way that my brother did. And we started Bourbon Real Talk Community, which is a forum to help people connect. And we don't allow troll behavior in there, which is kind of the enemy of connection and community. So everybody in there is required to be respectful to everyone else. And we're finding that when you provide that environment, people really do get connected. But going through this process and looking into the whiskey world and what was going on, we did see the trolls and the haters, and they taught us a valuable lesson. And that is that if they can hate you online, there's nothing that keeps us from loving you online. And that's why we end every show the same way. And that's this. If you woke up this morning and you're unsure whether or not anyone loved you, just know that we love you. And we'll see you next time on Bourbon Real Talk. Cheers.
I knew I was a bigger Bourbon Real Talk fan than you.
How do you know that?
Well, because I don't just use a prideful goat, Glenn. I got an official Bourbon Real Talk tumbler.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, I got this Bourbon Real Talk lanyard to carry my whiskey glass in.
Oh, well, speaking of whiskey glasses, do you have one of these?
No, I don't.
Rocks Glass.
Oh, yeah?
Yep, official.
Well, I love my wife, and I bought her this official Whiskey Wife flask from Bourbon Real Talk.
Well, that's cute and everything, but I got my wife one of these.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Well,
You can just add your own liquor, and it's an actual cocktail right there in a jar.
Me and my wife like to make cocktails, so we got this simple syrup off the website.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, do you and your wife have one of these? This is an official sticker. You can only get these on the website.
No, but I do have these official coasters that have the Bourbon Real Talk logo on them, and I'm representing.
Well, while you're representing those little coasters of yours, I've got an aroma kit.
Do you?
Yeah, so I can smell literally everything in bourbon. Everything.
Well, I don't have that, but I do have this sample box that I keep all my samples in because I'm part of the community and I share samples.
Yeah, but do you have Glen toppers that are officially Bourbon Real Talk?
I don't have that, but I do have this large whiskey carrying case for my glasses so that I don't break them.
See, I knew you had that. That's why I have this, the smaller version, okay? It packs more easily into your suitcase. Don't have to mess with that big old thing, okay?
Suitcase, that's for lamos. Check this thing out. I have a Bourbon Real Talk bottle carrying bag. You can't beat that.
I don't know if I can because...
And on top of that, I have a Bourbon Real Talk t-shirt. I'm the bigger fan.
Oh, I can beat that. Is it extra schmedium?
No, I don't have an extra medium.
Ha! Extra schmedium.
You might be the bigger fan. You win.
I knew it.
So whether you're a Bourbon Real Talk super fan or simply looking for quality whiskey swag, head over to bourbonrealtalk.com today.